Today, Precarious plays
Deus Ex, Human Revolution.
All right.
Albert Einstein said, technological progress is like an axe in the hands of a pathological criminal. Took me a while, but I finally see his point. How often have we chased the dream of progress only to see it perverted? More often than not, haven't the machines we built to improve life shattered the lives of millions? And now we want to turn that dream on ourselves to fundamentally improve who we are. Experience has shown me how dangerous that can be. How many times in the Call of Duty did I almost fall into the trap of taking shortcuts, abusing my abilities or the resources at hand? I resisted. Barely at times, because I valued human lives and considerations. Can I truly despise others who fall? Technology offers us strength. Strength enables dominance, and dominance paves the way for abuse. Darrow understood this. He knew that using technology to become something more than we are risks losing our ability to love, aspire, or make moral choices. The very things that make us human. It also risks giving some men the power to make others what they choose, regardless of the cost to human dignity. The suffering Darrow inflicted is not the end of the world. It is merely the seed for change. And change never comes without pain.
That's not exactly the point I was trying to make, but it was the only option that would let me provide all of the information in the shape that I thought it should go out.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I agree with some of Adam's supposition there, but he is a character. He is his own individual in the story.
Yeah.
This isn't like a true role-playing game where I think that Fallout does a pretty good job as a series generally with its similar style of conclusions where it hints at change and it shows you slides of usually more immediately relevant, like communities and stuff. Communities and individuals you interacted with, and it tells you what happened to them, or occasionally it's like, no one knows what happened to them. They disappeared into the waste, never to be heard from again. That kind of thing. And that leaves room for you to say what your character is thinking and feeling at the end.
Yeah.
But Adam already, he has history. He's not a cipher for the player.
Yeah.
He's not a blank slate. So I don't know if I agree with everything that particular version of Adam just said. And I think it's funny because I think canonically, Mankind Divided Adam would have words to say to this version of Human Revolution Adam.
Yeah. Like what?
Mankind Divided Adam, I think, is by default much more pro-aug and feels much more for the augmented people that are in very real, very immediate suffering.
Yeah. That's what...
Like, I want to play it on the show. I just don't know if I want to play it on the show immediately because it might be a little tiring.
Yeah. I just, like...
So you can see for yourself later.
Yeah. Good game. Good game. Fun game.
It's all right. I think it's enormously elevated by the design, the visual design.
Yeah, I don't know if I would care half as much if it was less, like, thoughtfully put together in a visual sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so freaking precious. Like, every bit of it. Even when they can't do, like, the most technologically, the detail that they put in is just the right detail.
Yeah, and I mean, just like the ability to navigate. This is especially pronounced in the sequel, but the ability to navigate these spaces without necessarily relying on waypoints and the in-game map is great. That is also, I think, enhanced in the sequel. There's a Game Maker's Toolkit video. Game Maker's Toolkit? I think that's the title. That talks about side quests and prog in the sequel, and how if you listen, oftentimes at the start of a side quest, they will give you directions to where you need to go. Mm-hmm. And if you follow those directions, you will be able to get there without using the map.
That's cool.
Like, there's one where they tell you to go to some guy's apartment, and if you go to the bottom floor of the apartment building, and you read, like, what's it called, the placard?
Yeah.
The list of names on the wall.
Yeah.
The person's name is listed on the wall, and it gives you the apartment number.
Like, it's such a small thing, but, you know, it's something that gets overlooked so much, to just have environments act like environments. Just think, if you had a building, what would the building look like? What signage would there be available? How would you do the wayfinding signage? Like, just architecture it up, okay?
Yeah,
there are so many public spaces that have good examples and poor examples of wayfinding signs. Every large metropolitan area, every big-ish building or hospital, you need to be able to find your way around. And, I mean, design plays a very simple but extremely important role in that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I feel like maybe we're a little biased because we're both graphic designers by trade.
Have you ever been
Of course the signage is fantastic and important.
Listen, have you ever tried to find a room in a hospital whose signage was screwed?
I've not had to navigate a hospital specifically.
It is so
like
anxiety producing to try. The fact that it was a hospital definitely made it worse, but there was also a hotel I've been to that was like this, where
haunted. It was haunted.
No,
it was a haunted hotel.
No,
with bad graphic design.
It didn't even need to be haunted. I was so stressed out by the time I found out where I was supposed to be.
So I said that it's enormously elevated by the visual design. And Adam's a cool guy. And I like a lot of the supporting characters, you know? I feel like it's maybe let down a little bit by the gameplay. Moment to moment.
Yeah. I think it would feel like a very different game if we were playing it differently. The fact that we go through slow, methodical, and sneaky, I think probably hid a lot of the frustrating flaws in the gameplay.
Yeah,
because whenever you would go into any sort of shootout, it was just kind of frustrating.
Well, I've got something to say about that. That was mostly on me. It ties into what I was going to say. Just now that it's over, I can talk about it. Playing this game with the sound level as low as it is pretty frustrating, and it slows the pace of the game noticeably. I checked the save file I have in the Xbox 360 version. It took me significantly less time, even discounting the missing link. It took me much longer to play through the non-missing link portion. I looked up the timestamps because we keep a list of all of them, and I like added up. I got a rough estimate based on the footage we recorded, right?
Yeah.
So it took me a lot longer to play through, and I think a lot of it had to do...
You worry too much, Morgan. There's nothing we can't manage given time. She's here. I have to cut this short. Keep going through the wreckage. Maybe we'll find something we can use for the Morpheus initiative. Come in. Dr. Reed. We're so pleased you decided to join us.
Where else could I go?
No regrets, my dear. As Ariadne told Theseus before he entered the Minotaur's labyrinth, always forward, never left or right. You'll be very interested in our current project. We're breaking new ground.
Yes, the nanite virus chimera is quite intriguing. I'm looking forward to seeing the hybrid project up close, Mr. Page.
And so you shall. But please, call me Bob.
That's all original Deus Ex stuff that is a bit... I'd need to look at the wiki to determine what that was about. Oh, the sound design. The sound, playing it without proper sound is a real problem. I didn't realize how much it impacted the speed with which I could move through areas. And the reason why the firefights were pretty frustrating, it's because even at the end, I don't think I had any of the dermal armor perks. You can significantly cut the damage you take.
Yeah.
Similarly, you can make, again, the better guns, like the automatic weapons, much more usable by enabling the recoil reduction mods. Whenever I said I had almost all the mods unlocked, it was all of the ones that were relevant to my interests.
Yeah.
There are a lot of combat-focused ones that I ignored. Is it just playing like the Deus Ex theme? Is it gonna end? Do I have to press a button?
I think you have to press a button. It just seems to be being musical.
Can you turn the volume up a little bit?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, New Game Plus, am I right?
Oh, yeah.
No. That was, if there's going to be more Deus Ex,
it's going to be a different Deus Ex.
It's going to be Mankind Divided, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to say before?
I would like to know if the 3-button system is just standard for the end of all of this series of games. Like these big choices right at the end?
I don't think so exactly.
Because, I said that it didn't bother me that it was a Deus Ex situation because, like I said, it's on the box. But if that is how this series just resolves conflict at the end of the game, that's troubling. That bothers me.
Really?
Yeah, because, well, for a number of reasons, but because it shouldn't be the only narrative trick. This was set up to be that type of story. But having one person in control of fate, when it's the routine, it's less interesting. This is interesting because it was a good story, led up to this, has a lot to do with power, lots of reasons that it's appropriate here. But other games, if this is just how they do, then it makes me think less of this particular situation.
No, I'm pretty sure that the original, there are a few different things you can do with the big machine at the end.
Yeah.
And I think that fusing with it might just be like the most famous one.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to look it up. I'm not familiar with the ending of Invisible War, and I can tell you that Mankind Divided has a much more, I would say, sort of pessimistic, narrow ending, where you don't get to influence things even. They don't even like give you the thought, the feeling that you or influence things dramatically.
Well, and that can be interesting too in its own way.
Yeah, I actually really like the ending of Mankind Divided, but it was pretty it was not popular. A lot of people were really disappointed with it. I think it's part of the problem where a lot of people, I mean, understandably, they sit down to a video game to have a good time and they view anything that isn't like an empowering moment.
Yeah.
As a mistake, as a negative.
Instead of like a statement.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they view it just as a game and not as like media, as art.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that an ending where you're up against an organization called the Illuminati that exercises tremendous global influence, an ending where your actions always just sort of get spun. You always get spun.
Yeah.
I think that that's, again, pessimistic, but honest.
Mm-hmm.
Adam is he's a super cool guy, but he's just a guy.
Yeah.
In the end, he's one guy, and I think it might have been a response to what people perceived as like this illusion of choice. They tried to give you choices in this one, but people didn't like that, so they just said, okay, fine, then we're gonna put you on a very narrow path that tells a more specific story. We're gonna make a specific point at the end of the sequel.
Mm-hmm.
People didn't seem to like that either. So I don't really know what people want from the series.
People don't like. People dislike.
But you know what I like? We didn't get dinged for that guy that got blown up by the box guard.
That's good.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we got our Malik and got to eat not Malik too.
We got to have cake with Malik after this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good choosings, man.
Hey,
Those were some good chooses.
thanks. Anytime.